The days of cheap guitars are over. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Well, let's be honest, these things were never cheap to begin with, but Gibson, as of October 1st, has raised the prices of their guitars. So I thought we would reevaluate their lineup and what I think are the best deals and see which ones got bumped up the most. But first off, I am surprised this hasn't happened sooner than this. I'm sure we'll be seeing this across the board, with demand of these products being so high and the supply being so limited and everything just costing more, from labor to materials, parts, everything. Just getting people to show up at work. I think we were lucky to hold on to the original pricings of 2019 for as long as we did. So here we go. The first 6 guitars we'll look at today is from the original collection. So we've got the 50 standard, both in humbucker and P90 variation, as well as the 60 standards, and the Les Paul Deluxe. They all fall within the same range. These guys used to be $24.99 across the board. Flame tops, gold tops, plain tops, it was all the same. So we're seeing a $200 price increase on those. And to be honest, that doesn't really bug me too much. These truly are the best Gibson Les Pauls from the USA lineup that have been produced in so many years. And hey, if you bought one of these back when they were $24.99, I bet the used values will now follow suit and start to trend a little bit higher. Our next category are the Les Paul Special and Junior. I've been documenting quite a few of these specials lately. We've had the Berries and Cream special as well as the School of Rock one, but these guys were originally $15.99 when they were launched and stayed that way for a couple of years, and that was an okay price point if you wanted a guitar like that. These ones only went up $100. Why? It's probably because they don't have a maple top. Maybe maple wood's getting more expensive. Then we can also look over to the Junior. He's at $15.99 now. Also up $100 from the original $14.99. For me, Juniors are cool and everything, but if I was going to buy one of these, unless I had to have like this black finish, I would probably look to the used market because there's so many fun alternatives. All right, so $200 here, $100 there. Now let's move on to their Modern series. Here's where things start to get kind of interesting. So the Les Paul Modern, these are now $3,000. Like, that is used custom shop territory, whereas they used to cost $27.99. So even though that's the same $200 price increase as we saw in these other Les Pauls, something about that one really starts to rub me the wrong way now that we're definitely touching that $3K territory. I have done a review and demo of the Les Paul Modern, and it was a nice guitar. It wasn't my favorite guitar for the price points. I would rather spend a little bit more to get a Les Paul Access because I feel it has a better heel carve design, but it was a great versatile instrument. It was nice, and they offered them in multiple colors: the faded pelham blue, the sparkling burgundy, and the graphite top. For me, it's the Epiphone version of this guitar that is fantastic value for the money. I guess I haven't looked at Epiphone's website to see if those have changed or not. We'll have to do that at the end of this video. But perhaps one of the most striking is the Les Paul Classic is now $2,300. That's up from $19.99. This price point was perfect for a classic. It was just like a standard 50s, 60s, except for they didn't have the super fancy tops, they didn't have the weight relieving. There was actually quite a bit different between the two. Again, you can check out my full reviews and demos. But these ones got a surprising $300 price hike on them. That's more than the 50s, 60s standards. So once again, great news. If you bought a Les Paul Classic, now they're worth a little bit more. But they've got the red ones, a Heritage Cherry Sunburst, a Honeyburst, and then you also have the Ebony. So far, that is the model that was hit the hardest. Here's a Studio for $15.99. I don't understand people that buy brand new Studios. You can get awesome flame top versions from the early 2000s for the same kind of money, or a 90s one with an ebony fretboard. But they're only up $100, which is kind of strange because those have maple tops too. So what's making these more expensive? Is it just because of the caliber of the instrument? They think they can just get more than that? Or does it come down to something else that these guitars don't have in common with these? Like, is it these tuners that make it more expensive? The pickguard assembly? I'm not sure, but that's kind of interesting. And now we've got the Les Paul Tribute. So I haven't done a full review and documentation of this, but think of it as a stripped down studio kind of with a more of a satin finish, which I kind of prefer as a player. But the other big thing to know about these guys, besides the different colors, is the fact that these have maple necks. So occasionally you can find one that has some insane figuring for a guitar at this price point. So $12.99. That's only up $100 from $11.99. So at the end of the day, probably not a make or break for that model. And again, same thing with the studio. That one has a maple top too, so that throws my earlier theory out again. But here's where things get interesting. Les Paul's Special Tribute Humbucker and the P90 version did not change price, which I'm a little bit confused by that. Maybe they wanted to keep that $1,000 price point and the profit margins were already good enough on that. These do have a more stripped down satin finish to them. They're a wrap tail piece. Unfortunately, I haven't got to have one of these in hand, so I can't tell you if it's a great guitar, an okay guitar, or not so good. But we've definitely seen enough of them in the demo shop. So I'm guessing this one they just wanted to keep as a modern day entry point to Gibson. So maybe they're making a little bit less money on it, or it was already pretty economical for them to make that. And yeah, apparently the Les Paul Jr. Tribute DC bass is still in production at $1,000. That one has also not changed. I've got an idea here. Are they discontinuing this model and going to move it into something else for 2022? Is that why these guitars haven't raised in price? They're trying to get rid of old inventory, and by raising all the prices on everything else, it makes these a little bit more attractive. Okay, I see you there, Gibson. I'll be looking forward to seeing what comes next. Or I could just be wrong here. But now we move on to the exclusives collection. Okay, everything's the same here. $200 premium for the black finish on these guys. Same $300 on the classic and $100 on the special. But the reason why I wanted to point these things out, people have been reselling these on the used market because they fell out of stock. At the time of recording this, they're in stock. You can get them. You're going to have to pay a little bit more because that's now the norm, but every single one is in stock from the Les Paul lineup anyways. So if you wanted one of these classics in olive drab like a lot of people did, they're here. If you wanted one of these guys and felt bad for the one that was whirling around at the Gibson garage not being purchased and played, yep, it's here. You can buy one. But here's another interesting point. You can move on to our Slash Les Pauls. These are still $3K. So now that Les Paul standards are now $26.99, that bridges the $500 gap between these things and makes them almost seem a little bit more worth it. I'm betting we'll see these things raise $200 once it's time to renegotiate. It's either that or they had enough premium that they didn't want to damage the sales of this one. But what I was most interested about was the custom shop. Now, obviously, things like the Wino Les Paul Custom, original retail price, I mean, this thing's already sold out. You can't get it. If you're interested in doing a new Guitar Day purchase, mine did just come in. We'll be seeing that review and demo. If you want to book it for retail price through my new Guitar Day program, it's available. First person that emails me. So it looks like these juniors were $37.99. Now they're up $200 to $4,000. It's hard to buy those things brand new for retail price unless you have to have a brand new guitar. Now granted, an original one is going to be about double that, but you can find like refinished, kind of modified ones for about that price point, a little bit more. I would personally go that direction, but that's just me. So double cut reissue $37.99 is now up to $39.99. So it seems like a pretty solid $200 across the board for the more budget-friendly custom shops, if that's even a thing. But now let's look at the higher end Les Pauls. So 54 reissue at $46.99. That one's also $200. Over here, 5,000, 53. These ones are up $300. Now to me, I feel like the gold top should have just been $5K to start with because that's a nice even round number. But the 58 reissue kind of starts to rub me the wrong way because now we're above that 5,000 price point where it's like, ooh, do I want new or do I want to go used? Because used R8s are actually relatively inexpensive. Now, depending on the grade of top, what year, Brazilian versus Indian rosewood. New guitars, used guitars, that's a whole different subject. But now let's see our 59ers. So $66.99. I actually knew this one. They were $64.99. So that's a $200 increase on these as well, which is interesting. So $300 increase on these, only $200 on the top two best-selling ones. They probably just had more profit margin built into them to begin with. Let's face it, these are very similar guitars spec-wise. So mean, why are you even paying $1,000 more other than to say it's a 59 or a 60? Now let's check out the customs. $68.99 versus the old $66.99. So that's a $200 thing. However, when we get down here, the 68 reissues, those have gotten pricey. So from $57.99, whoa, $6,199. That's a $400 increase. Wow. And only $300 on there. I'm curious if these guys got any more expensive. So $5,055. Yep, those guys are up about $300 too. Oh man, do I even dare to look at Murphy Lab, because that is very labor intensive. So $7,200 pretty much across the board for our first 5. Oh, surprisingly, only $200 more on a lot of those. How about our specials and juniors? $44.99. See, that doesn't make sense to me. Why are these guitars the same price? I mean, there's clearly more cost involved in that one because it's got another pickup. They just raised the price $200. But now let's move on to our SGs. I'm pretty familiar with the prices of these. Yep, those puppies are now $200 more expensive. So you used to be able to get these for $19.99. And then this one was $200 off if you didn't want the trim. Peculiarly enough, the SG Special has not changed price. Does that mean they're going to discontinue it? I sure hope not. Or maybe they're just going to change it up a little bit. The Juniors are $13.99 now, but that's how much they were to begin with. And the base at $14.99, that one went up $100. But now we'll move on to the Modern Collection. They were $2K. You had $14.99 and $10.99. And today we got a $200 price increase. Looks like $200 there and only $100 on the SG Tribute. Now we'll move on to the custom shops. This went up $100. This did not change. And this one went up $300. That's a bit confusing. This one did not change. And these two both went up $100. Oh, let's check out the double necks. They're now $8,000. Whoa, jeez. That is the biggest price hike. Are we sure that's the actual price? Is that that has to be a typo. 8,000? That's a $1,500 price increase. I get it. They probably don't want to make these guitars. I'm sure they're pretty labor intensive, but wow, $1,500 price hike. That definitely makes the used ones for like $4,000 that are hard to sell a lot more attractive. And as far as Murphy Labs, this hasn't changed. That went up $100, as did this one. And once again, the specials strangely going up by $300. This one was only $100. But now let's move on to the artists. These were just released. Have they changed? $2,400. Nope, they're still the same. And this thing's out of production, even though it's still on the website. Otherwise, they probably would have hiked that up to $3,000. That's what everybody's paying on the used market anyways. The Brian Wright, I think they're still making those occasionally, and he hasn't changed in price. And this one's also out of production. How did our 335s fare? I'm seeing $300 across the board. So they used to be $3,000, $37, and $33. Now it's $33, $4,000, $36. Now that one's only $200, but these other two were $3. But to be fair, they had quite a bit of a premium for the figured woods on here. But whoa, the 339 shot up $500 from $27.99 from $22.99. That's kind of shocking. I don't think they sell that many of those, do they? If you've wanted one of those, I would definitely get in before all the shops change their price, or they get their new inventory in where they have to get closer to that because they likely have to pay more now. And then the figured one's now $34, which is only a $400 price increase. And of course, now you got the exclusives. They're $33. That's up $300 as well. I'm curious, are these in stock? They are. Maybe today's a lucky day, or they're just putting more effort into putting these things out because people want them. And just in case you didn't notice from that first video, these do indeed have the Gibson mother of pearl headstock on them. And of course, we got the Murphy Labs. I won't talk you through these. I'll just show you. One of the most notable ones is the Trini Lopez here was $6K. And whoa. $900 premium. Yep, those things definitely got more expensive. How about this one? I know I said I wasn't going to, but yeah, a lot of these are up about $800 or so. There must be a lot of work that goes into light aging those. But oh man, I'm gonna be sad. I wanted to review one of these. $7,500. What is it now? $8,199. But man, it still seems worth it. That is my favorite guitar to come out of the Murphy Labs division. It's just a beaut. Now, how did our pointy friends fare? Firebirds were $2K, 17 for the Flying V, 17 for the Explorer. Surprisingly enough, Firebirds are still the same price. These guys only went up $100, and the 70s Explorers went up by $200, which it was hard enough to get these things in stock, so if you got a pre-order at $2,000, congratulations. Same thing for the exclusives, those are up $200. Doesn't look like they rose the price on the brand new Carina style guitars right here. They're still $10K, but I'm seeing like $300, $400 price differences between these other ones. But ooh, our customs got expensive, $53. These are about $600 more now. And your Murphy Labs are about $400. So all right. I hope you enjoyed going through these. Again, it's sad that prices have to go up. Some of those went up a lot, like that double neck. Geez, $1,500. And some of the Murphy Lab designer ones, they got pretty expensive too. But the other ones, I feel the price increase is justified based on the market today. However, I'm really curious, has Epiphone changed their prices yet? Maybe they'll do it later this week if they haven't already, but let's take a look here. Yep, these look just slightly higher as well. Take note at the Junior at $429. That's up about $50 from what it used to be. But how about my special? In my review and demo, I said they were pricing those things too cheap. I would not blame them if they made them $500. And oh, we're almost there, $449. But to be fair, that's just a $50 price hike. Is that just what they did across the board? Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. So your Epiphones are now $50 more expensive as compared to what they used to be. That seems to hold true for the ES Epiphones. You can see them here, now $50 more. Same thing with our SGs, $50 more expensive. And I think you guys get the point, designers too. The Prophecies did stay the same price, as did this one. The Special 2 went up by $20. I didn't even realize they still made these things, but they got quite the price hike there. Wow, $40. However, strangely enough, the best Epiphone guitar that money can buy yet today, in my opinion, they stayed stagnant. I hope that doesn't mean they're discontinuing them. I mean, $649 versus $699 if you want the figured and fade. They decided to let those stay. I really think they could have got away with putting those up to $700 and $750. But it looks like the classic Worn has stayed put as well at $449. Those are also a good one. I would suggest them. But yet, the Studio is now more expensive than the classic Worn. So it's $500 versus the old $449. And the Muse, that one's also up $50. But ooh, here's something to throw a wrench in my plan. So the Slash Appetite Les Paul is now $400. So that one's also up by $50. And to wrap things out, we got the modern SGs. So $900, $550, $379 is what they used to be. So that went up by $50. The modern also did, but the Prophecy SG stayed stagnant. And the Muse also went up by $50. But now I'm curious, did Fender also raise their prices today? I'm not going to do anything as in-depth. You know, we just reviewed these guys. Those are the same price. I mean, they just launched those. I didn't expect them to change. Corey Wong's still the same. Acoustasonic looks still the same. That looks about right. Oh, hey, in case you didn't notice, they finally came out with the exotic tops on the Stratocasters. I wouldn't mind checking one of those out. The long-running Richie Kotzen, that looks like the same price to me. From what I can see, these prices look about the same that they have been. But it wouldn't surprise me if we see a small price increase in the future from Fender. All right, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode and getting informed of the new prices. Man, it's going to be so hard to learn these new ones after ingraining the old ones in my head. All right, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.